welcome to my gallery in southwest France. Spring is well and truly here, and the wisteria in the courtyard is blooming. It's magnificent and the scent is wonderful too. It always inspires me to paint, and this year is no exception. So today we're going to do a watercolour together, using water to create the beauty of the flowers without any pencil work, just the magic of watercolour. And here I have my paper and paint ready to go, and as you see I'm wetting the paper thoroughly with a large mop brush. I want the whole of the paper to be shiny wet. This is 300 gram fine cold pressed watercolour paper, 100% cotton, and I'm moving it just so you can see that it's shiny wet. The palette that I've already prepared consists of ultramarine blue and permanent rose, which I've mixed a whole range of colour varying from blue violet to pink violet, and now I'm using my large mop brush to drop the colour into the paper, and then we can move the paper, which is a lovely thing to do, just to let it flow. And in flowing it helps to create the impression of the wisteria as it falls down a cascade of violet. Now I'm mixing more paint, and I'm going to apply a little bit more delicately with my medium mop brush, just to start to give the impression of the flowers as they fall. I've speeded up this video, as you see, just so it doesn't take too long. This part of the process can be quite time consuming, but it's good just to carry on working away whilst the paper is damp. It gives you the opportunity to add a good basis for the picture, which is not too structured. The water will continue to move the paint for us, and the effect we get is fluid and is a lovely basis for the picture. So we just carry on putting on the colour, working away, just one point at a time, just one spot. Occasionally we move the paper too, so that the water gets the opportunity to run the colour down the page. And you can see I'm using the large mop brush to mop up in some areas. The brush will absorb water as well as distributing it, and if it's too wet, the little spots of paint that I'm putting on just won't stay there. They'll be spread by the water and become more general. But I want this feeling of the cascade of flowers going more and more delicate as they get to the bottom. The wisteria opens from the top of the blossom, and then at the bottom we have the little buds still hanging. So this is the effect that I'm trying to produce. And then we have to leave the paper to dry just to go on to the next stage. Now we see that the paper is dry to a certain extent, not totally dry. So having established that there's still a little bit of movement possible with the colour we've put on already, I'm using my liner brush to add spots of water. The spots of water will start to move the pigment just a little, to create even more texture. The fact that we've used ultramarine blue and permanent rose as our combination colour to create the different shades of violet means that the pigment from the ultramarine blue, which is very, very coarse and easily moved on the paper and granulates, gives even more texture too. So this combination is good for creating a texture and an interest in a wash like we have on the paper just now. So I'm now applying little spots of water, just clean water as you see, to the different areas where I want the larger flowers to be. Again, I've speeded up the video so it's not too tedious, and it gives you thinking time. You can plan as to where your flowers are going to be. I've already got 3 flowers going, just a hint of 3 flowers on the paper, and I want to build on this now and add more detail as we go. You can see how the darker spots are emerging as we've wet the paper, and it helps me to see how we go. We don't really need to use pencil at all, and in fact I haven't used pencil, as you know, with this picture, and I don't intend to really. It's not a botanical study. We're not really studying in depth the structure of the flower, but I just want to create the feel for the fall of the flowers and the way they grow. And you can see now I've gone into the blue-violet end of the palette, and I'm applying paint around the area that I've already wet and adding more water where I need to so that the paint can move. This is a very loose and free process because I want the picture to be a loose impression of the flowers, and it's always the water that creates the effect for you. It's a magical process, and you can really lose yourself in the process. So many people are afraid of adding water and think, oh, it'll go out of control. I want to really know where I put the paint and it stays there. But if you let the water help you to create that impression, your picture will be much freer and more beautiful in many ways. So as you see, I'm going into each section of the palette to mix more paint now, so I have all the colours readily available to use as and when required. Kind of made the decision that 2 of the flowers are going to be more distinctive, and the flower in the middle, which you can hardly see at the moment, is going to be less important. So I'm now adding colour to these areas to give that sense of depth and colour, and as I've said, it is a time-consuming process. So I'll leave you with the image and come in to comment if there's anything else I need to add. Now you can see I've tipped the paper just so that the water can move the paint. It's important to do that, especially if we've got so much happening vertically in this picture, which helps to give that constant vertical flow, because it's almost as if the flowers are flowing down the page. I've used the brush to put drops of paint on the paper now, so that the areas that I've wet, the paint will run in to those areas and create darker spaces without having to put them on with the brush. So you can add more darker areas to wet areas of your picture without a problem. And this gives it an immediacy and a rhythm which you wouldn't get if you were just putting it on all the time with the brush. We are getting to the point now where we can see the blossoms clearly, and I'm just as we add more buds and colour down at the bottom, I can decide the length of the flowers. We don't want them all the same length. The one on the right hand side is going to be the longest, and as I've said, the blossom in the middle is going to be less important. So I am adding more detail to the main blossom so that it then doesn't look too regular. It's sometimes really hard to be regular and not do things in a regular fashion, and you have to make a concerted effort to do that. You can see I'm moving it again now, and that is where we're going to leave it and let it dry once more. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it's inspired you to put paint on paper and see what effects can be achieved. Of course, we can add more detail to the picture, and we can do just that in the next video. So watch out for that, and happy painting.